Hello, this is Old School from WhatTheBuc.net, recording a preview for the Jacksonville Jaguars game this week at Raymond James Stadium, which will be blacked out for you folks that are local who are not going to the game. You will not be able to watch it unless you watch it on the stream. This game is the third preseason game for us, which is typically the game where we start seeing some real game planning, some strategy, and the ones usually go a little further than the others. This week for us, Josh Freeman, obviously with his injury, will not be in there. We'll see Josh Johnson at the quarterback spot, hopefully building on what he did last week. By having another strong outing. It seemed to be predicated on him going to his checkdowns quickly, going through his progressions quickly, and then making those decisions instead of staying in the pocket and causing that pressure on the offensive line and ending up making a mistake. But we don't normally do in-depth reviews of the opponent in the preseason because we're more interested in introspection during the preseason. We'll do a little bit of that this week as it's more like a regular game than the other preseason games are. But from a Bucs standpoint, we got a number of changes. There's a couple of changes in the depth chart. Sean Jones getting the start over Savvy Piscatelli and the ensuing craziness that occurred around there. Kedrick Vincent starting over Jerry Mizuta on the offensive line left guard position as well. And then Derek Ward more or less being sort of demoted with Kareem Huggins getting more touches. Now, the reason I bring up the Derek Ward situation, even though it didn't get quite as much noise with Derek having an injury last week and performing subpar as well, rushing data is going to be interesting because when you look at the stats right now through preseason, the Jags are not a very impressive squad, neither are the Bucs. But when you look at the actual stacks on the total offense, Jacksonville's 23 and we're 16. Now, this Jacksonville Jaguars offense, despite David Garrard getting the nickname Captain Checkdown by the local Jacksonville media, this is a team that can throw the ball around. So when you look at what they can do from a passing perspective, they're number 3 in the league right now. They're throwing the ball around. Now, Luke McCown, ex-Buccaneer, is doing a lot of that, and as it was quoted on NFL.com, did a lot of that against the junior varsity defensive backs of the Philadelphia Eagles. But the fact is they're third in the league, and we're 24th in passing. Now, this is where it gets sort of interesting with Maurice Jones-Drew. Now, he hasn't gotten a lot of touches, but nobody's gotten a lot of touches. Jacksonville, in their preseason games, have only actually run the ball 28 times. And they've only gotten 34 yards per game, which puts them dead last in the league. We're sitting at number 9 right now, but we've had 59 carries. The only other team in the league that's even close to that are the Denver Broncos. I think they had 35 carries. Now, some other stats that might be interesting, may not be interesting, is scoring offense. The Jaguars are putting up some points at 26.5 points a game, and we're only at 13.5, which is 28th in the league. But the flip side of that is on the defensive side of the ball. The Jaguars are letting teams walk all over them. They are 32nd, once again, bottom of the league in overall defense by yards per game, giving up 420 yards per game and allowing teams to score 27.5 points per game on them, and we're allowing 12.5 at 4th in the league. Now, I don't do a whole lot of the stat work, like I said, during the preseason, but I think it does bear some mentioning because that's what's going to come across when you see these 1s and R/1.5s going in through the first half. The Bucs are going to have to try and do some things that they've not been able to do yet this preseason, and it's going to be foundational for them the rest of the year. That offensive line, now that they've solidified, they've determined where they're going with left guard, that offensive line's got to create their own persona. They've got to be able to start dictating. We'll see Cadillac Williams, we'll see Kareem Huggins get some carries. We've got to see them be able to dictate possession and field position. Right, they went with a punter in the draft. The idea here is to get that other team either to score, obviously, and I know this sounds very simplistic, but to score on offense or at least put the defense in a position where they can be an offensive defense and try and get those opportunistic turnarounds, the scoop and score, the quick turnarounds that they thrived on back in the early days of the defense, and what Raheem hopes will be the same case with his version called the Tampa 2.1, according to Rondé Barber. Now, on the offensive side of the ball, we'd like to see Caddy get untracked. We'd like to see Kareem Huggins. Derek Ward probably hopes he's going to get something going. I don't know that that's going to happen. The receiver, Stovall, I'm not sure if he's a go yet this week, but I think you're going to see some Reggie Brown and Aurelius Ben get a chance to get some looks. But I think Sammy Stroud's probably going to step up this week and have another good game. The offense has got to try and get that rhythm going. Even though it's with their backup quarterback, they've got to show that they're able to move the ball down the field. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, that front four is coming under fire. There was actually some news this week about Styles White being on the bubble, which I think is kind of crazy. He hasn't had a terrific preseason, but I don't know where they think the depth is to move a guy like Styles White. I also think that people know he's got the talent. He's got to put it together. Our defensive tackles, obviously, were a big investment with McCoy and Price. We've got Miller in there in the rotation. They're going to need to make a decision on Sims or Dre Moore and where they're going to go with that backup. But that front four is going to have to start getting some of the pressure. And I don't really care whether it comes from the middle or from the edge, but they can't keep blitzing. Last week, Rob put a lot of blitzes in the first half. We sent a lot of guys from a lot of different locations, and we just weren't getting home. Castle was smart enough to check down to the drag routes and ate us up, move the ball up and down the field. If you can't get home on a blitz, you're going to get beat on a blitz. and that's something that we're going to have to figure out from a defensive play calling perspective, how to mix those things in and be effective. The secondary has played very well, but they're going to be out on an island if we can't get pressure, and that's going to come down to who they end up putting in that stack 1 through 3. I don't think there's any question about who's going to be in the middle. I think you're going to be McCoy and Miller. I think Price is going to get a chance to impress, but he did get put on his backside last week. It's going to be a little bit of maturation for Brian Price coming in there and playing against the big boys. But Styles White, Kyle Moore going to have to step up. If not, you're going to see Michael Bennett getting more snaps. They're going to continue to try and do what I call that go package, where they flip Kyle Moore to the tackle position. I still haven't seen it be successful, but someone somewhere, whether it's Todd Wash or Coach Morris, believes that by putting your best pass rushers on the field, even if they're maybe out of position a little bit, you can get better pass rush. I don't think it's a bad concept. I haven't seen it actually work yet. So on the takeaways, I think that we're going to see a good first half for the 15 people that are at Raymond James Stadium. I do think Josh is going to continue his development. I think he's going to have a back-to-back set of good games. And I do think we're going to see Caddy get some touches. I know they're afraid of injuries. They're definitely afraid of injuries. But they've got to get Caddy some looks behind that offensive line, get him to read those blocks. Let Ernest get some reads in there to make sure he's putting a helmet on somebody. I'm assuming they're going to continue to try and force Adam Hayward and Roy Miller in at fullback because they're going to try and find that extra roster spot. My suspicion is to keep Peanut, who should be back this week after having a battle with something that was rumored to be gout, but we've got no confirmation that it was gout. I think there are a couple of guys that are really fighting for their positions on this team. Many of them we talk about on a regular basis. Michael Clayton is on the outside looking in on the receiver stack. I'd like to think he's going to continue to be out there. Mark Dominic is probably working overtime right now trying to find some way to get some value out of a couple of these guys, even ones that we've already paid. We're not going to save any money by getting rid of Clayton, but I just don't see him anywhere inside the top 6 on the receiver stack. Derek Ward's another guy who's on the outside looking in, and we would save some money by getting rid of him. And while he was a talented free agent and a pretty lauded free agent when we got him in here, he hasn't gotten it done. And every snap he gets keeps a guy off the field like Kareem Huggins, who has gotten it done. And we've got to see if he can actually get it done against ones. And so that's what I hope we're going to see against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think we're going to see a fun game. If you're going to be out there, we'll see you out there, and I'll get you a review after the game.